In today's fast-paced and ever-connected world, it is not uncommon to feel overwhelmed, especially among Generation Z, those born roughly between the mid-1990s to early 2010s. They are often described as the first digital natives, having grown up amidst a storm of technology and social media platforms that are intertwined with daily life. The rise of anxiety within this generation is not so much a tendency, but a pervasive reality that requires understanding and addressing. This narrative seeks to unravel the complexities of why Gen Z is particularly vulnerable to anxiety and explore pathways to resilience. Gen Z has come of age in what we might call the age of hyperconnectivity. Unlike previous generations, whose connection to the digital world gradually evolved, Gen Z was born into it. The constant flow of information and notifications demands their attention around the clock. Every vibration or sound from smartphones and smart devices serves as a constant reminder of the world pressing inward. An onslaught of micro-stressors triggers physiological responses meant for situational alerts rather than continuous exposure. Moreover, the omnipresent access to social media means that Gen Z is perpetually exposed to carefully curated moments of happiness and success from others' lives, highlight reels that are deceptively convincing in their perfection. This exposure doesn't only create a sense of urgency or lack akin to keeping up with the Joneses, but rather presents global crises and disconcerting news that feel inescapable and far beyond individual control. Feeling the pressure of vicarious experiences and events that aren't individually manageable nurture anxiety as a chronic state. In the midst of this suspicion of relentless comparison and heightened stress, the role of emotional intelligence emerges as crucial. Emotional intelligence involves the ability to identify and understand one's emotions, especially discerning between simple stress and the deeper undercurrents of anxiety. Cultivating self-awareness is pivotal for recognizing anxiety's roots and responding to it constructively. By analyzing such phenomena, creating awareness, and providing accessible support structures, Gen Z won't just navigate the present challenges, but will learn to rise and thrive in the modern world. The narrative text explores the complex emotional landscape of Generation Z, a group characterized by their unique challenges and profound self-awareness. It begins by highlighting a major internal struggle faced by many Gen Z individuals, the persistent and often overwhelming voice of doubt and comparison that gnaws at their self-confidence. This internal monologue can be stirred further by social media, which amplifies feelings of inadequacy by showcasing others' seemingly perfect lives. The text delves into the differentiation between emotions and feelings, emphasizing their impact on anxiety. Emotions are defined as automatic, physiological responses, the physical embodiment of anxiety with symptoms like a racing heart or a tight chest. Feelings, conversely, are the mental interpretations of these emotional reactions, transforming simple anxiety into a looming sense of dread. Emotional intelligence emerges as a critical skill in this narrative. It equips Gen Z with the tools needed to decouple emotions from the stories they tell themselves, fostering a viewpoint that recognizes anxiety as a temporary state rather than a personal failing. This perspective allows for a more nuanced understanding of one's emotional state and prevents spiraling into negative self-talk. The narrative reflects on the environmental factors contributing to Gen Z's heightened anxiety: economic instability, climate-related fears, political discord, and the sweeping changes brought on by a global pandemic. These external stressors create a backdrop of uncertainty that can exacerbate feelings of anxiety. However, the text shifts to a more empowering tone, recognizing Gen Z's heightened self-awareness and their drive for authenticity and mental wellness. This generation's willingness to engage with deep, existential questions at a young age is seen as a source of strength and potential. The narrative concludes by reframing anxiety not as an adversary, but as an opportunity for growth. It suggests that personal development begins when one stops evading discomfort and starts interpreting anxiety as a message rather than a perpetual burden. The overarching goal, as presented, is not to eliminate anxiety entirely, but to understand and manage it, leading to personal clarity and resilience. Managing anxiety in a real and lasting way requires a deep understanding of the self, moving beyond distractions that offer only temporary relief. The first step to effective management is to stop using perpetual busyness or numbness as a coping mechanism. While these may appear helpful in the short term, they ultimately disengage you from your true self. Emotional intelligence, foundational to anxiety management, is rooted in connection, both with yourself and with those around you. Creating space to feel is essential. This might involve activities like journaling, confiding in a trusted friend, taking contemplative walks, or simply dedicating a couple of minutes each day to deep breathing. Although often labeled as self-care trends, these practices serve a greater purpose: cultivating self-awareness, which is crucial for reducing anxiety's hold over you. Another crucial step is learning to articulate what you feel. The language you use can either obscure or clarify your emotions. Saying, "I feel overwhelmed," offers more insight than a vague, "I'm fine." Specificity leads to clarity, which in turn enables emotional regulation, a skill that allows for intentional responses rather than impulsive reactions. Anxiety tends to flourish in silence, so it's important to break this cycle by vocalizing your struggle. Seek help, express your needs, and remember that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of strength in its authentic form. This process of seeking support can include therapy, participation in support groups, or engaging with trusted relationships. Community is an integral component of the healing journey. Furthermore, the influence of physical habits on mental health should not be underestimated. Adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and regular physical activity are all critical in managing stress effectively. A well-rested mind and a well-nourished body can facilitate more composed reactions to stressors. In contemporary society, there exists a pervasive yet often unnoticed phenomenon that significantly contributes to anxiety among the Generation Z cohort: identity pressure. This demographic is growing up at a time when societal expectations demand that they quickly ascertain their identity, establish their beliefs, and determine the trajectory of their lives. These expectations are further compounded by the omnipresence of social media, where their every move is subjected to scrutiny, judgment, and comparison in real time, an experience that is not merely stressful, but overwhelmingly taxing. The delicate balancing act required by these expectations is psychologically burdensome. On one hand, individuals are encouraged to be unique, to carve out their own identity distinct from others. Yet on the other hand, there is a caution against deviating too far from the norm. People are urged to express their truth and to assert their views, provided they do not offend others. A message that encourages boldness is caveated by the condition that boldness must remain unblemished by disorder. The consequence of these contradictions is a persistent inner conflict, a tension between one's authentic self and the self that the world demands. The cultivation of emotional mastery emerges as an essential tool in navigating these pressures. Emotional mastery entails a steadfast commitment to one's identity, even when external circumstances are tumultuous. It involves a deep understanding of personal values, the identification of emotional triggers, and the deliberate choice of responses regardless of external pressures. Such mastery is foundational to maintaining a sense of self amid chaos. A notable characteristic of many Gen Z individuals is their heightened empathy. These individuals possess an intense capacity for empathy, experiencing profound emotional responses and an inclination to absorb societal pain. While this empathy has the potential to lead to meaningful societal contributions, it can also result in emotional fatigue if not managed with appropriate boundaries. The passage sets forth a profound yet simplistic narrative emphasizing personal growth and emotional resilience, primarily directed toward Generation Z. It underscores the essential distinction between one's identity and their experiences of anxiety, portraying the latter not as a defining trait, but as a navigational signal. By advocating for a shift in mindset, the text encourages individuals to embrace their anxiety with understanding rather than resistance, thereby promoting a journey of self-exploration and personal development. Beginning with an affirmation that one is not synonymous with their anxiety, the narrative unfolds to present emotional mastery as a transformative process rooted in compassion towards oneself. By listening to personal fears instead of combating them, individuals are portrayed as transcendents of reactive behavior, evolving into students of their own experiences. This self-directed learning is posited as a catalyst for genuine personal growth. Emphasizing incremental steps, the narrative suggests adopting small habits that anchor individuals in present realities. Mindfulness, avoidance of comparative mindsets, valuing rest over perfection, and engaging in self-kindness are celebrated as foundational practices that nurture one's growth journey. The passage acknowledges the nonlinear nature of progress, recognizing the spectrum of experiences from heaviness to liberation, validating them equally. The importance of surrounding oneself with a supportive community is highlighted, suggesting connections that provide empathy without attempting to solve problems. Such relationships are portrayed as pivotal in reinforcing one's inner strength. The ultimate assertion is that help-seeking symbolizes wisdom, not weakness, and prioritizing mental health is depicted as a courageous act constructing a sturdy basis for one's future. In addressing Generation Z directly, the text dispels notions of being broken, countering them with an acknowledgement of evolutionary processes where deep emotional engagement, critical thinking, and empathetic action embody contemporary challenges faced by the generation. The narrative advocates for leading with emotional intelligence, redefining cultural parameters of success, and normalizing vulnerability as empowerment. Ultimately, the narrative's empowering message is that anxiety does not obstruct one's mission but may define their pathway to impactful change. This conversely transformative view serves to inspire younger generations to embrace their narratives, emphasizing that their stories, still burgeoning, hold the potential for significant influence and innovation in building a future enriched by compassion and understanding.